few ways to interact with the Grove of the Burn Willows Punishing Fire combo. He has, most of his creatures are X2s and are really susceptible to that. What he does have to deal with it is he has 2 Wastelands in his deck. Gerry, if he's savvy here, which I'm sure he is, will be saving his Wastelands specifically to deal with Grove of the Burn Willows, as opposed to trying to mana screw his opponent.
We see Stephen Ayers starts out with Mother of Runes, affectionately called Mom. A lot of people thought in the upcoming From the Vault 20 that one of the awesome pieces of art was going to be a new Mother of Runes art. No, that's Impulse, folks, if you're watching the spoilers come out from that. Main phase Brainstorm from Gerry Thompson on turn 2 here.
Right, so one of the things that Gerry, the Shardless Bug deck, can do, as you see he does have a Shardless Agent in his hand, is they can set up some really excellent Cascades. I don't know if he has an Ancestral Vision right here, but I think one of the signature plays of the deck is cascading into Ancestral Visions, as opposed to casting the card fairly.
If you're just joining us, I'm Adrian Sullivan in the booth with Matthias Hunt here for the StarCityGames.com Open Series featuring the Invitational. We have just begun the Legacy portion of this event. You can see Gerry Thompson casting Brainstorm, puts 2 cards back, puts down a fetch land, finds a black source of mana, a Bayou, to cast this Thoughtseize. And I see Green Sun Zenith. I see
and a whole bunch of Mother of Runes.
I bet you that Green Sun Zenith is going to go away.
This is you know, how good is Mother of Runes in this matchup? If you look at it, Gerry's deck does not have too much target removal. It has 4 Abrupt Decays and a Maelstrom Pulse, and that's actually it for that's it for targeted removal that it has. It does have a Liliana, but a lot of its removal comes in the form of you know, Baleful Strix trading with creatures, or actually Tarmogoyf blanking creatures.
I think we got something from the top. We do it from the top. It's a Bird of Paradise. Another Mom comes, and you see that the first Mother of Rune's not attacking. No, that's not what it's there for. It's there to blank Gerry's removal spells.
Right. Gerry's doesn't actually, he doesn't have a true sweeper in his deck, so these Mother of Runes are going to do a lot of work in keeping his what little removal he does have down. What we may see Gerry then try to do is he plays a fair number of creatures. If he just starts attacking with a lot of different creatures, he can force Stephen to use the Mother of Runes in situations where he wouldn't want to use them. You know, he can maybe force him to tap them and then eventually be able to kill them.
And we're going to see another, what I like to call Braincestral Recall here. He's using the Brainstorm, and unless he really loves everything, he'll be able to shuffle some of that away.
Right, and he plays the fetch land, looking like he'll do just that.
I believe I saw him put 2 lands on top of his library.
Well, he may want to draw, and if he wants a 4th land, he can draw on. Remember, his next play is Shardless Agent, which will let him cascade through the 2nd land, so he can kind of shuffle his deck without actually shuffling it, and then leaving his fetch land for maybe another Brainstorm later on.
Grove of the Burn Willows from Stephen Ayers. Gerry's deck only runs 2 Wastelands, so cards like Grove of the Burn Willows, which he can use in conjunction with Punishing Fire, can be very hard to deal with.
Right, Grove is really a problem for his deck if that Punishing Fire happens. Like I said before, those 2 Wastelands, Gerry doesn't even really talk to him about it, doesn't really like that they're colorless lands. The deck is really color intensive, but they're kind of just a must in the format to deal with things like Grove of the Burn Willows.
We can see right now Deathrite Shaman, triple Mom. At this point, Stephen Ayers basically has a invulnerable little army of creatures. Gerry Thompson is not running any cards like Pernicious Deed. He's not running any cards like Damnation. So Gerry's way of getting rid of things is point and click. The only removal spell that he has that is not point and click is 1 Liliana of the Veil. Gerry looking for something useful here. Draws Tarmogoyf. Alright, so he's got Tarmogoyf, he's got a Shardless Agent, he's got a Force of Will, a Jace.
Yeah, so really what the game is looking at right here is that, well, Ayers has the ability to exile cards, and, like, he has a clock. It's not a great clock, but he has one on Deathrite Shaman. But really what he has is this brick wall that Gerry's going to have to find a way to break through. Remember, the ways that Gerry deals damage is his own Deathrite and Tarmogoyf's. And sometimes he wins the game, can win the game through Jace, but all those are going to be kind of hard on this board.
I would not be surprised if he, wow, is he actually just gonna drop the Jace? I'm not sure, he's fetching right now. Getting the 4th mana indicates he might be just dropping a Jace into play, which currently would survive an attack if Gerry plus 2'd it. And he does do that. He does a little ability to Fate Seal his opponent. So Jace now at 5. next turn, what Gerry can do is next turn, Gerry can cast Tarmogoyf, and if he gets a land, a Shardless Agent. I think he has a...
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think if we go back to this brick wall situation, you know, that Gerry sees this wall of Mother Runes they can't really get through. This Jace is kind of, you know, providing him a different way to win the game. He's saying, okay, well, maybe I can't swing through all these Mother Runes, but I can Fate Seal you out of the game. It's going to force Ayers to attack, which, you know, if you look at his creatures, none of them really are very happy to do that.
Yeah, these are not attackers.
Yeah, and of note, the Deathrite Shaman is life loss, so it can't be redirected at the Jace to keep it under control.
If you're just joining us, we are starting Legacy right now. This is the first game of Legacy of the weekend. We see a pair of Mother of Runes come in, knocking Jace down to 3.
All right, so and that's that attack there, which I was saying, you know, Gerry's going to force Ayers into situations where he doesn't want, you know, where he's going to have to make awkward attacks. You know, how often when you have a board of 3 Mother Runes do you start attacking with 2 of them? So, you know, now what used to be triple protection for his creatures is now just single protection. Gerry can maybe start using kill spells to try to find a way to whittle down those creatures, especially if he plays Tarmogoyfs as blockers. You might see him really try to make a wall that Ayers can't punch through. Either way, he has another land. He has a Force of Will, which is kind of a little late to the party. He's going to go ahead and put Liliana back on top and looks like shuffle her away, because right now all Liliana would grab is a Birds of Paradise. And we will see him go through the Liliana, actually,
Boom.
Into Baleful Strix.
And that has a triggered ability as well.
So we know that the top card is Liliana of the Veil. The question is whether or not Gerry wants to draw Liliana.
Liliana not great, but not terrible either.
Yep, and he decides that he does want a Liliana, though, so he's going to crack the fetch land for another duel and cast Tarmogoyf. Which means he now has this... So
they both have walls.
They both have walls, but so the Jace is now becoming very relevant. What Gerry has to make sure he does, I think, and one of the reasons he's Fate Sealing, is that he needs to make sure Steven does not draw Punishing Fire. That would really break open this board for Ayers.
Yeah, right now, I mean, Steven is not in an exciting place.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the Wasteland...
He does.
It's of value, but it's not incredible.
Because Ayers hit that second Grove of the Burn Willows, Gerry's ability, you know, to try to keep him off that combo is a little compromised here. He only has 2 Wastelands. He'd have to find them both before Ayers just finds a 3rd Grove. So really, what Gerry's fighting over still is that Punishing Fire.
You might see a Liliana come down and start +1-ing.
Right, Liliana could +1. Gerry may even just Edict with a Liliana, you know, Edict ++, Edict ++, just to gain a lot of value. All he needs to do, you know, like you said, there are 2 sets of walls on this board, and all Gerry needs to do is find some amount of value.
And Gerry does the +1. Looks like he's going to discard. It's a land versus a Force of Will.
Yep.
Steven now, I believe, empty-handed. We see a Fate Seal from Gerry. So and then Gerry empties his own hand with Deathrite Shamans.
Yes. So, Force of Will being discarded, because once again, the only spell that Gerry really would need to counter would be Punishing Fire. That's when, you know, counter spells don't do too much against that.
Now, if I had to choose a seat, I would choose Gerry's seat.
Well, absolutely. With the double Deathrite Shaman, he actually even has an answer to the Punishing Fire right now.
Right now, Mr. Ayers and Mr. Thompson, these 2 players facing off against each other. Ayers uses his Deathrite Shaman one last time for his last real opportunity to do it before Gerry is going to be able to, quote-unquote, counter that ability by his own activation. Right, and it's really important that Gerry can do that right now. He's at 8 life, so that would be, you know, theoretically one way he could lose this game. Yeah, he can do exactly what you said. He can wait until Ayers tries to target something, and then Gerry can target it himself to blank the Deathrite Shaman. Yeah, the game as it stands looks pretty wrapped up, honestly. There aren't very many things that could be drawn by Mr. Ayers here that would be able to recover from this board situation. And Gerry's gonna go ahead and, you know, Abrupt Decay, not really a card when your opponent has 3 Mother of Runes in play. Another plus. And Steven draws the card that Gerry has let him draw.
Right, which is Scavenging Ooze.
Which is a surprising card if you don't think about it too much. You're like, oh, why would you let somebody have Scavenging Ooze? Well, if you look at this board state, the ooze doesn't even matter anymore. Right, the game is not about ooze.
Right, Gerry has the game locked up with 2 planeswalkers right now, and he just needs to make sure that that Ayers does not draw a way to get through this wall that he has set up. And Scavenging Ooze, because there's no creatures in the graveyard, isn't going to be big enough to become a threat. Even if it did, there's a Baleful Strix for it to trade with. Well, potentially. There's still a lot of Mother of Runes, but it's very difficult for Ayers to push enough damage through there.
See another Fate Seal. What do you think about it? Put it on the bottom. Put it on the bottom.
Remember, Liliana now has reached 6, so she's on an ultimate as well. Which actually is important because it lets him destroy Grove of the Burn Willows. And ultimated Liliana is a kind of a second removal spell for Grove if he needs to find it.
I mean, right now, there are 11 permanents in Steven's play. Half of them would be a lot of permanents to lose.
Right, and I mean, like I said, Gerry might even split it up, you know, just like Grove in one pile, all the lands in the other one, because by doing that, that means that Ayers will not have the ability to establish the Punishing Grove combo, because if he keeps the Grove, he doesn't have enough mana to do it with.
And we see Ayers removing another card from the yard.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's probably just going to try to just eliminate the graveyards entirely. It's going to be very difficult for Ayers to use the graveyards to any good effect, so he may just, you know, well, if I can't have them, no one can have them.
And of course, with all of the creatures in play, I don't think anything has died yet. The Scavenging Ooze cannot grow. And for that matter, the Death Rites do make it a little bit more difficult to be able to get your ooze to grow. We see a fetch from Steven. This is basically giving up the ghost on using it to reset the top. And there were cards in there. That was a real card. Sword of Feast and Famine at the bottom. This reminds me, actually, one of the things that frustrates me about Magic Online. When a person uses Jace to put something to the bottom, and then you shuffle, you can't find out what it was.
You can't check the bottom of your deck.
You can't see what they put down there.
Yep, so Sword of Feast and Famine, well, in terms of, you know, so Gerry apparently did feel, and I would say correctly so, that that's one of the few cards that really can hurt him in this situation.
I think it might be the only card that can actually hurt. Oh, there we go. That's
Punishing
a reasonable
Fire
one.
has been drawn. That's another one. That was one of the ones he had to avoid. Like we said, we might see, I think we may see Gerry just use the Liliana to get rid of that Punishing Grove combo. And he's going to have to do so. The game got a lot, and you can tell by Gerry, the game got a lot more interesting with that draw.
And we see it's being activated for black. I'm not sure what it's targeting. Something in Steven's yard, perhaps.
So
the Green Sun Zenith.
We'll see if Steven can mount the comeback here.
And Steven takes out himself to do 2 damage or lose 2 life from Gerry Thompson. And we see it returned to hand. And I think we're going to see him perhaps kill the other Deathrite Shaman while...
Well, yeah, I mean, what Ayers is thinking here is that if he can get rid of both Deathrite Shamans, he can go back on the plan of using his own Deathrite Shaman for 4 times to finish the game. Checking through it. Right now, there are no instants left in the graveyard, but really it is only a matter of time until some instants find their way back.
Gives the ooze protection from colors, probably green and black.
Yeah,
and comes on in at...
I think it's going to be at Liliana. He's correctly identified that that's one of Gerry's only ways to deal with the Punishing Grove combo, and he's going to keep Liliana off that ultimate.
And then perhaps killing the Shaman. There it is.
All right.
And this was a really exciting turn for Steven.
All right, so can Gerry hold on? He has a Jace on 9, a Liliana on 4, still some blockers left, but only 8 life points and a Punishing Fire that's getting cast over and over at his board.
Well, also that Scavenging Ooze very soon can become a 4/4.
Right, Gerry has no way to exile the things in his own graveyard anymore, so Ayers will have free reign to do that himself. And Gerry has drawn off his Brainstorm. It looks like he does have the ability. He drew a Ancestral Vision and a Shardless Agent, which means he has the ability to set up, you know, that really excellent Cascade, which I think we'll see here.
Shardless Agent says Ancestral, draw 3.
Whenever
you do that, it just feels so obscene.
Less fair plays.
Oh my goodness. That's some magic right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's excellent, but the question is it enough? Gerry, remember, he has a 1-of Wasteland he can attempt to draw to. Remember, he looks like he's drawn a second copy of Ancestral Vision Shardless Agent.
That's correct.
Which he's going to bury the Ancestral Vision too deep so that next turn he can draw a card and Shardless Agent again.
Edict.
And without hesitation, Ayers bins the Birds of Paradise.
Wow.
So he's going to go ahead and suspend an Ancestral Vision. I think he has one on top, second from the top of his deck, and the one he just suspended there.
Gerry is at a virtual 6 here. The Deathrite Shaman represents 2 life lost for Gerry.
Yeah, and it's almost 4. Remember, with the help of 2 Mother of Runes, Ayers can push through that Scavenging Ooze if he feels he absolutely has to. He can remove some only 1 creature in the graveyard, I think. So all he can do is make it a 3/3, but he can push 1 attack through.
You can see Steven here trying to see what he can put together this turn. With a mystery card, a land. That's actually a very good draw for him right now. The reason it's a good draw is it just gives him more ability to activate his Ooze, activate the return ability of the Punishing Fire. He's going to be spending a lot of mana this turn, so a land is not a bad thing to draw.
Yeah, Punishing Grove is really an excellent engine. It is a little bit of a mana-intensive engine, though.
I thought this game was all over, but Steven Ayers, with the draw, I believe the 2 cards in a row, Sword of Feast and Famine, and then on top a Punishing Fire. Gerry put the Sword of Feast and Famine to the bottom, and then Ayers draws the Punishing Fire, and is right in this.
What Gerry had to hope is that he didn't have 2 relevant cards in a row, and unfortunately that did happen for him. Jace can't get around that.
2 life for Ayers. The Ooze now a 4/4. Now, the Jace this coming turn can bounce the Ooze. But remember, Mother of Runes...
It can try to bounce the Ooze.
Mother of Runes will say no, no.
Right. Ayers going to go ahead and use Punishing Fire on the Baleful Strix. That will allow him to just allow protection from green to be enough to push that Scavenging Ooze through. So now he still can keep up 2 Mother of Runes to deal with the Jace and a potential removal spell that Gerry has in his hand.
Remember, Shardless Agent is blue-green 1.
With that attack, Gerry's now at...
Looks like, I believe that 5 life is correct.
Okay.
Another Shardless Agent, and we know what it's going to cast. Right there, Ancestral Vision, 1, 2, 3. Land, Maelstrom Pulse. Maelstrom Pulse looks a little silly right now.
Yeah, you can't. It's really hard to overload a Mother of Runes when all your removal is sorcery speed. And unfortunately, because Gerry's removal is Maelstrom Pulse, Jace the Mind Sculptor, he can't just target lots of removal spells at Scavenging Ooze.
I think Gerry's dead. I think Gerry is actually dead right now.
It is looking that way.
He's at virtual 3 because of the Deathrite Shaman.
Well, if Ayers plays this correctly, I think you're absolutely right. What Gerry's going to have to try to do is bait out these Mother of Runes activations. You know, if he can somehow use enough removal spells on things to get Ayers to tap all his Mother of Runes, then he may be able, like, the coup would be if he can somehow resolve this Maelstrom Pulse on a Mother of Runes.
We're going to see an attack here from some number of these things. Basically, I think he's trying to get Mother to activate.
Right.
He's trying to get, come on, Mother, do something. And was that a snap, take the damage?
I mean, I think so. We'll check. With Gerry at 5, Ayers has to know that, you know, Deathrite Shaman's pretty relevant. There's a lot of ways he can end this game.
If you're wondering how big the Tarmogoyf is, check down to the bottom of your screen. That's a Tarmogoyf die. It is a 5/6 Tarmogoyf.
All right, so they recount it and adjust it. And it looks like Ayers just took the damage. He drops to 14, which is still plenty.
Jace goes for a bounce.
Yeah. Well, I always think this is really interesting when you watch a player of Gerry's skill level. You know, he's on a board situation where he should be dead. But you watch him play, he's playing toward, you know, imaginary outs. He's like, Well, he brings terms all the ways his opponent can screw up. You know, did you edict the right creature? Nope. Okay, you edict. You're edict the wrong creature. No, you edicted the good one.
And then we still show, and Gerry's like, yeah, that's it.
Okay, yep, you made the right call. You get it.
Wow, so that's an amazing game from Ayers there. I thought it was all over, and then like we said, we had all it took, a single punishing fire, and the deck just came right out. It's worth noting, though, that that game would not have been his if he did not have 3 Mother of Runes. If he had only 2 Mother of Runes...
Did he ever use the third one? Was the third one?
That's just it. The third one was protecting from the possibility of the Maelstrom Pulse at the end.
Okay. Well, the thing is, even if... Right, so from the Maelstrom Pulse on all the Mother of Runes.
Yeah, and then that would be it, I think. I think at that point, that Maelstrom Pulse on all of the rest of the Mother, like, having the third one just ended up being more than enough.
All right. So, I mean, and that was one of the things we talked about when we were first talking about the matchup, is the Shardless Bug deck is really a great grinding deck. And interestingly enough, both of these decks are grinding decks. And when we say that, I mean, you know, it can cast removal spells and continue to reload its hand really quickly. One of the things it does have problems with in this matchup, and probably the only thing it has a big problem with in this matchup, is the Punishing Fire Grove of the Burn Willows combination. If Gerry can keep that one under control, he's usually a heavy favorite in this matchup.
I mean, from the sideboard, he's got Golgari Charm as a way to try to break it up. Nile Spellbomb. The Spellbomb, I think, more effective, just to my mind on that.
He certainly, okay, so in the matchup, what he'll certainly bring in 3 Nile Spellbombs. He has to, this Punishing Fire Grove with the Burn Willows combination is really just, it's essential for him to have every way to shut it down possible. Granted, if his opponent has 2 Groves and a Punishing Fire, it doesn't do anything. We'll also see him bring in Baleful Strix number 3 and 4. The card is really good in almost every creature matchup. It's great at trading with Tarmogoyfs. He doesn't run a full 4 in the main deck because he has, you know, the card is a 1/1 for 2.
He has to have stuff that does do things on their own.
Well, I mean, it does a lot of things, but, you know, in a matchup like Storm, for example, you know, your 1/1s for 2 are pretty bad. So, yeah, only running the 2 there. Outside of that, we may see Golgari Charm. You're saying it's good in combat, but it doesn't really answer the problems. Like, it doesn't answer the problems that are already there in the matchup.
Well, I mean, one of the things it does is it kills all Moms and Thalias.
Right.
And then besides that, the graveyard, or not the graveyard, the all Moms and Thalias. I don't know that the regeneration ability matters that much, but all Moms and Thalias seems like a big deal to me.
That's pretty huge. Actually, that game, it would have swung the game in Gerry's direction.
I mean, another way to think about it too is all Moms, all birds.
He also has 2 disfigures, which I have to assume are nods to Deathrite Shaman. That's interesting. Yeah, you know, if you think about a 1-mana kill spell that just kills a Deathrite Shaman outright, Disfigure's a pretty good choice. It's the common from Zendikar, just -2/-2 for 1 black.
When you have the access in a deck like a, you know, Shardless Bug to any black removal spell and you choose Disfigure, it's very pointed. It's a very specific, directed choice.
Yeah.
On the left, Daryl Ayers. On the right, Gerry Thompson.
Yeah, so you know, he may have undergone a name change. Daryl, a player from Chesapeake, actually, first name is Steven, but he goes by his middle name, Daryl. He most recently kind of came on the scene in Grand Prix Atlanta, which I believe was Legacy. So, you know, certainly is no stranger to Legacy here. That was actually his first top 8. He top 8'd that Grand Prix before he ever even top 8'd a PTQ or an IQ. His first top 8 of any kind was a Grand Prix.
Well, I mean, one of the things about Legacy, like we were saying before, Legacy rewards knowledge. If he's a Legacy player at heart, goes to this Legacy Grand Prix, he's probably well prepared for it. He's probably more experienced at Legacy than nearly all of his opponents. I bet you he came on down there, maybe, where is he from again?
Chesapeake.
I bet you he came down to that Grand Prix and was just ready to knock it out of the park. And I bet you that means that in this portion of the event, beginning the Legacy, he probably walked in here and is like, if I can just get through the standard, I'm going to be sitting pretty.
Yeah, it's that old term of, you know, Legacy Specialist, which I know you always hesitate to throw around, but you do see those kind of players who, you know, they learn one deck and they learn it really well.
Yeah.
And you just don't want to play them when they have that deck in their hands.
Now, Legacy specialists can jump to other decks, and when they do, it's because there's something special about that deck they're jumping to. I'm curious what Daryl usually plays.
All right. So we have game 2, Gerry leading off on a fetch land, not cracking it, probably for a potential brainstorm he might have, and Ayers will respond with the turn 1 Green Sun Zenith for Dryad Arbor, I can only assume.
I'm curious if he's got the new Dryad Arbor art or the old.
Yeah. So remember, this play is what has led to well, one of the reasons that originally Green Sun Zenith has been banned in Modern is this play is probably just too strong for Modern right now.
It's a little good. Uh-oh, where is it?
Hopefully it's in there somewhere. So Green Sun Zenith searches out any creature with converted mana cost X or less. Remember, so this card only legal in Legacy. Because with what he's done, he has found Dryad Arbor. It's a land that is a 1/1 at the same time, so it is conveniently a green card with mana cost 0.
It is build your own Llanowar Elf. He untaps, lays his second turn land. Well, perhaps. Yeah, he does have land. One of the most powerful drops he could do, I'm not sure if he has it, would be a Knight of the Reliquary on this turn.
Yeah, I mean, a turn 1, you know, the 1 into 3 combination is pretty strong. He made exactly that play. What's really great here is because he's on the draw, the Dryad Arbor works overtime again, in that it protects him from a possible Liliana in this situation as well, by having 2 creatures. It looks like Gerry has a fair number of lands in play. He's kept his hand based on the strength of a Shardless agent that he has. He's going to go ahead and end-step crack both his lands as opposed to doing it main phase. I think he was going to have to crack them for whatever spell he was playing anyway, and why is that? He just assumed reduce the chances of him drawing yet another land. Even though that odd, like, you know, the principle of deck thinning is always, like, fairly marginal, it's probably it's correct in this situation.
We see the agent gets a Deathray Shaman.
Yep, a blind one there. Not the worst hit, though. What he's really going to look for right now is going to be a Baleful Strix. That's his deck's only way of dealing with
Punishing Fire in hand
tonight. And this, as we know already, this is a rough situation for him.
Choke. Oh boy. The Knight of the Reliquary gets a wasteland from the deck, I'm sure, to waste the Bayou.
Yeah, so Choke, a really
I'm wrong. He can get the same amount of mana by killing that Deathrite Shaman.
Yep.
Gets a red source. There it goes.
Choke just brutal against this deck. Gerry has 6 lands that are not islands in his deck that make mana.
Have you ever been choked?
Yeah, I've actually, the one time I played a fair deck in the Legacy tournament, because I'm not a big, I like combo, I was playing Gerry's Shardless Bug list, and I did have a choke resolved against me, and I did not win that game.
It is a terrible feeling to have green 2 choke. Ouch.
Right, especially like you said, when their opponent has a Knight of the Reliquary engine going already. Gerry does have a second Bayou he can fetch up right now. Outside of that, he has 2 Wastelands, 2 Creeping Tar Pits. Those are his only mana producers. He wants to try to find his way to Abrupt Decay or Maelstrom Pulse before he runs out of mana.
Daryl does have 3 Wastelands in his deck.
Well, I imagine we'll see one of them show up pretty soon here.
There's a mana in pool. Get rid of it. Let's find a land.
Gerry's in such a rough spot right now because of this choke, but that's not even to mention the fact that Daryl has a Punishing Fire in his hand. And as we saw game 1, that's also great in this matchup.
Yeah.
This could turn from bad to worse very quickly.
One of the things that's really amazing about Shardless Bug is it's one of the most powerful, we'll call it quote-unquote fair decks. What does it do? It tries to build crazy amounts of card advantage and play very, very powerful spells. And it expects that what it's going to do is overwhelm you with cards. It's going to overwhelm you with quality and with cards. But the problem is, if you're playing against a deck like Punishing Maverick, it tries to not do the exact same thing. What it does instead is just eliminates tons of your deck from being valuable. It just says, we'll choke that. I've got moms. Let's make sure your targeted removal isn't good. I don't know. How about I Punishing Fire all of your creatures?
And what I like here is Daryl's just continuing to push the advantage. He's made an Elspeth Knight Errant now, which is another permanent, which is just a great value permanent that's really hard to deal with. So Gerry's gonna be searching for an answer. He has to be careful about cracking that fetch land. Once he cracks the fetch land, then whatever he gets could get wastelanded.
In with the Shardless at Elspeth. Elspeth, okay, ouch, still alive.
So Gerry's playing both fetch lands. He's protecting himself from Wasteland by not cracking them, and I think he's just hoping to draw Abrupt Decay or Maelstrom Pulse.
We see the return of Punishing Fire.
And this is, you know, this is one of the unfair ways that Punishing Maverick grinds. When you say fair, meaning like you're paying for your spells, you're only playing your spells once. You know, he's breaking that second rule. He's playing his spells lots of times.
He goes plus. Which version of plus is he doing? Is he going to go to the air, or is he going to make a little soldier?
Looks like he's going to. He's saying that he might go for the attack. Really, what Daryl's doing is locking out the board here.
Yep.
With Knight of the Reliquary.
Actually leaves the Knight of the Reliquary back, right? So, right now, Daryl has a fortress, slowly reducing the value of all of Gerry's possible plays.
Yeah. Well, I really like how Daryl plays Knight of the Reliquary, and just really how it plays in the Maverick deck. Because, you know, you first think of it as a really large creature. It's a 2/2 for 3, which can potentially be a 7/7 for 3. But it's really interesting because in Maverick, it's really, you just care about that second ability where it sacrifices land to get a land. You use that to pretty much lock your opponent out of the game, and then at the end of the game, when everything's said and done, you kind of shrug and say, oh yeah, I still have this 7/7 left over. I guess it's pretty good at killing you.
We see Gerry Thompson fetch. I believe he's going to brainstorm, look for an Abrupt Decay now, and if he finds it,
it's probably
be happy.
If he finds it, it means he has a chance to play this game. He's got to find it now, though. You know, Daryl's starting to put a lot of pressure on. As you see, Gerry's drops down to 14, and it does not look like Gerry drew into that.
Oh, but he did find a Creeping Tar Pit.
Okay.
That is huge.
It's
but
huge.
Not
it
even
still
huge.
gets wastelanded.
Wastelanded still is, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be the Abrupt Decay or Pulse for that choke.
And Gerry's like, that's all she wrote. I know what the writing on the wall says. It's over.
All right, well, Daryl, moving back into his preferred format of Legacy, defeats Gerry Thompson, moves to 4-1.
You know, like we were saying before, what's Gerry's deck do? It plays good cards, and it plays lots of card advantage. It plays lots of ways to get more good cards. What does Daryl's deck do?